I'm in Chester, in a phone box. Let's talk about serverless.
This week I travelled the 8 hours from Dubai to the UK to deliver a talk at ChesterDevs meetup. It was about state of the function, which is a talk I've given before, but this time I focused a little bit on how you can use a container, any Docker container, as a function using FN project, which is the serverless project I often talk about. So I have this project on GitHub called Funtainer. Sometimes they're called funk containers, function as a container, get it? And I cloned this down to my local machine using PowerShell. So just a git clone, got all those files down, and there's a few files in this project which enable me to build. My Docker file is quite straightforward. It has a from statement which says I'm going to start this container from a node Alpine container. So what that means in a Docker file is that it's going to use that node Alpine container as the base for this container that I'm going to create. I'm going to set the working directory as function inside of the folder, and then I'm going to add func.js from my local file system into the function-/func.js file in the container. So it's basically copying the func.js file into the container, into the right folder. Then I'm going to set up an entry point, which is going to execute this func.js file using Node. So Node is going to execute and run func.js when this container starts up. So this build file will create me a Docker container, which basically starts up and runs whatever's in func.js. In func.js, we have a variable called name, which is defaulted to the word world. And then I use the fs package from this is Node's way of getting a dependency on the fs package, which is the file system package in Node. FN project uses standard in and standard out to input and output to a function. Standard in is effectively the input that someone sends to a process using the terminal or command line. Standard out is the output that you send back to the terminal or command line. In Node, we read the data sent on standard in by reading the file dev/standardin or stdin using the fs package. If we want to write to standard out, the most straightforward way is just to use console.log. So we take whatever comes in on standard in and we save it to the input variable. If that input variable has something in it, then we set the name, this global variable, which was world, to whatever comes in. So changing it from world to whatever, like the beebs. And then finally we console.log that. Now I'm going to Docker build what's in that folder. I'm going to call the container Funtainer, and I'm going to take everything in the folder. And that's going to create a Docker build for me locally. And I'm going to tag that build and tag it as the beebs Funtainer, which and the latest of that as well. And that will mean that it's now tagged as the container that I'm going to actually use, and I'm ultimately going to try and push it to my Docker registry. So it's going to take my local container and it's going to push it up to the beeb/Funtainer tagged latest. That's going to push it over to the docker.io. So now I can pull that container from anywhere, and FN project can pull that container. So I can say FN app create, so create an application, call that Chester app. It's created that Chester app for me. FN roots create Chester app, which is the name of the application, and then a root called hello. So on the hello root, it's going to use an image -i of the beeb/Funtainer. So what I'm doing is creating a function root. When it's hit, it's going to use that container. So it's created the hello and it's pointing to that image. Now if I call it fn call Chester apps, which is the app, and then hello, which is the root, it's going to respond with hello world from a Funtainer, which is the default. If I don't pass anything into the function, that's the default that this piece of code returns. If I say fn roots list Chester app, it's going to show me all of the roots, which will just be the one, which will be this hello root. And you can see the endpoint is localhost 8080 -r for roots, -chester app for the application, -hello. So if I echo the beebs and pipe that, so like pipe that value into the function, so then call fn fn call Chester app hello, spell it right, then it's going to pipe the beebs into it. So the way that code will work now, it's say hello the beebs from a container. So it's actually taken the value which has been passed into the function and it's used it as part of the app.
Join me next week when I'll be in Munich and then Berlin talking about Kubernetes. See you then.